This is going to be a semi-long-term experiment. You recognize this battery from the charger video. I'm going to put a little notch or something, or maybe just here. Just put a little mark so y'all know I'm not switching out any batteries. But I saw something pretty cool. What I'm going to do is every day, I'm going to put this into repair mode 2 times for a total of 8 hours. So it's going to sit 4 hours and then go to maintenance mode, sit 4 more hours back to back. Check out what happened when I checked it. And this is, again, no gimmicks here. Woo, camera. But this is the charger cable. This is the cable to my tester. All right, no gimmicks. See the mark. I tested the battery this morning. And the view, the crank amps went up to 582. And the resistance went down, which is good. There's less resistance in the battery. The state of health is now 71%. So when I ran it 2 times yesterday, or actually 3 times yesterday, it went up to 71%. So what I'm going to do, because I don't want to overwhelm the battery because it does have to raise the voltage more and then drop the current, is I'm going to run this 2 times in repair mode and then leave it. I'm not going to leave it on the charger. I'm just going to repair mode, unplug, cap off to make sure in case any metal or anything, I don't want anything falling on this and shorting it, but I'm going to cap them off, come back the next day, 2 more repairs, and test, cap them off. I want to see if this can really bring something back from the dead, because in my original video, it only went up 2 or 3%, and I was kind of not disappointed, but I was being realistic. But if all the liquid is still in here, and we can still bring this back, there's no reason for this to end up in the junkyard or being recycled. So just to be clear, I'm going to run the test one more time because anybody can show anything. Open 96, regular, out of vehicle, top post, regular, crank amps, 690. That's what it's rated for. Testing. Above. So it's 583. Remember that it was 538 and 540 before. So it is going up, and it's at 71, state 100. It was 8 before. So this is definitely doing something, and I'm kind of excited to see what it will do for this. Now, I'm not saying run 50 cycles back to back, never let this thing get a break until it gets to 100. No, what I'm doing is 2 cycles every day, giving it 10, 12, 16 hours of a break, and it's only going to be charging during the repair process. Now, just to set the foundation for specifically what I'm looking at during this experiment, I'm going to look at the voltage, the cranking amps, the cold cranking amps, the resistance, and the state of health, which is the overall health of the battery. During this experiment, the state of charge was 100% the entire time. So me knowing that there's no issue with the ability for the battery to hold the charge is not worth me repeating and wasting extra time. So we're not looking at SOC or state of charge. Everything else was good there. So I did make some graphs for those of you who are visual learners in case you want to see kind of the trend of whether or not this NOCO genius is doing what it's supposed to do. And just like me, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Day 3 of the experiment, just looking at the liquid, and compared to day 1, it's definitely a little more cloudy in each of the cells. And some bubbles, some cloudiness, some debris. 7-year-old battery, I don't expect anything less. If you can see like nothing, if the liquid is completely black and burned, then it is a telltale sign that your battery is cooked. January 5th, adding exactly 80 cc's of distilled water to each cell. I want to make something clear. Please do not use tap water. Do not use bottled water. This needs to be distilled, deionized water. Just to make sure that there was a good conductivity as far as the charging process, at about day 5 or day 6, when I added my deionized water, I also cleaned off the posts with a post cleaner. If we zoom in action, it's just a bunch of metal teeth. You can see that they're kind of in a pattern. So if it's counterclockwise or clockwise, make sure when you're cleaning your posts that you're following that, because if you go in the opposite direction, you could break those teeth in there. So don't do that. But Right now, we're going to take our multimeter. This has been sitting overnight. Again, at no point during this experiment did I have this thing maintaining charge. So whatever it has, it's what it can hold. So we got voltage, zoom in action. Make sure if you're doing AC or DC, if this is a battery, it's DC, negative to negative, positive to positive. We're looking at 12.88 volts, which is right on the money. Typically, for reference, those of you who are not sure, your battery should have 12.6 minimum if it's holding a good charge. I don't want to tip this too much, but if you look closely, let me see if I can zoom this. You'll see these little lines, right? These little kind of abrasions, you can feel them. There's 6 areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each of these areas has a cell, and you can see them run all the way through. Each of those cells is able to hold about 2.1 volts of energy. So 6 times 2.1 gives you 12.6. So if you're a little higher than that, that's cool. But if you happen to notice that you're charging your battery, or you're charging your battery at home using the Genius or whatever you're using, and you're noticing that it's 10.5, maybe 10.5 to 10 volts, maybe 9, one of your cells is bad. Don't know which one, but at that point, the Genius is not going to save you here. You need a new battery. It means that the issue is the hardware, not the chemicals. And you can basically take away about 2.1 volts for every cell that's bad. So if your charger is only able to get up to 6 volts, then you know you probably got half of your cells are bad. So, keep that in mind. This is made to rejuvenate, as they use the term, rejuvenate the battery, not to fix it. If it's physically broken, then that's all there is to it. But this was not the case here. You just saw that. But for more proof, we're also going to do a direct test. And it says it's a good battery. As of January 15th, right now making this at 1:10 in the afternoon, it is a good battery again. We're getting 628 cranking amps out of the 690 that it's rated for. And that's the lowest resistance we've seen. 76%. State of health is 76%. State of charge has been maintained at 100% through the entire experiment. So the battery is in fact holding a charge, which is awesome to see. I think it was super ambitious to try to hope for anything 80s and 90s for a 7-year-old battery, but it's possible that continuing to, slowly rejuvenate this thing could potentially get it to crack into those low 80s. If that's the case, then I am happy with that. On day 10, I decided to give the battery a break. So at 10 a.m., I recorded the values, followed by almost 12 hours later, taking a second set just to make sure we're on the right track. This battery is going through stress with the repair process, so I wanted to make sure it had some time to chill, time to cool down, and time for the chemicals to equalize. But let's look at the values so we see the overall progress of how this thing went, just so that there's no nonsense here. Now, first and foremost, if you didn't know what voltage is specifically, it's the potential difference, or essentially the amount of force as far as electrical pressure between 2 points. So in this case, we can see that they are 0.1, 0.2, in some cases hundredths of a decimal, and so nothing crazy as far as fluctuations. However, it is staying above that 12.6 threshold, so I know it is holding solid power potential. With that being said, if you notice that your alternator or your car is recharging your system at 16, 17 or more volts, it's going to start frying relays and popping fuses. So fix that before it becomes an expensive mistake. Cranking amps is what your vehicle depends on when it comes to starting up reliably. Typically about 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius and up is what you're going to rely on as far as cranking amps. If you have a smaller car, smaller truck, you need less. If you have a bigger truck, bigger car, you need more. The more cranking amps you have, the more reliable it is when it comes to starting your vehicle. With that being said, from January 1st to January 15th, we absolutely see a difference. However, once we get to about day 6, the gradual changes become less and less noticeable. Still, especially for a 7-year-old battery, definitely happy to see 624. So with this end result, we can see that we get a just over 90% of what the rating is for the battery, which is 690. 624 divided by 690 is 90 point, I don't know, 43 something. I don't know. It's a decimal, but the point is just over 90. Cold cranking amps is just what it sounds like, cold cranking amps. Especially in the cold time, especially if you live where I live, it is going to be in the single digits, if not sometimes very close to zero. And so you need your car or truck or van or whatever the hell you're driving to be able to get where it needs to go regardless of the temperature. On day 1 we had 444, and on day 15 we had 495. On day 10, interestingly enough, which was the day I gave the battery a break, it managed to score 503 cold cranking amps of, remember, the 550 that it was rated for. That 503 cold cranking amps, however, was not reflected in the data because it was a one-off value, and I wanted to be as hardcore strict on this test as possible, and one-off values hold no weight here. We want something that we can recreate, show, and otherwise analyze. Now, just to be clear, 495 divided by 550 does give you 90%, which is 90% of the overall rating for the cold cranking amps of this battery. It's low for what it is, and if you live in a mild place like Tennessee, Kentucky, wherever, then it's going to be warmer spots where you won't really have an issue. But if you live in a place like where I live, you want to have as many cold cranking amps as possible. I'd say 600, 800, whatever you can get, because it does get down to, 5 degrees, sometimes 2 degrees, anything close to zero. The most CCAs you can get are cold cranking amps. You want them. So not to get too nerdy, but resistance is essentially, in this case, how we put components or pieces into a circuit that allow us to control the flow and decrease wide open discharging of power. In this case, we see 7.72 is what we had on day 1. Remember that in the last video, we did have over 8 milliohms of resistance. So the less resistance in this case, the less the battery has to work in order to get that energy where it has to go. Again, we don't want too much, we don't want too little. But definitely we have seen the resistance gone down, which means the battery does not have to work as hard to move that energy. This is the most important value, or what most people care about, and that is the overall health of the battery. What your battery is going to look like at the end of the rejuvenation process. So on day 1, we started with 71%. Keep in mind, 64% is what we started with from last video. So 71 to day 3 only went up 2%. Again, 1% the day after, 1% down. Went up 2%, and then from January 6th to January 9th, there were 4 days where it just plateaued. Went up to 77% and then back down to 76%, where it pretty much stayed consistent until the end of the video from January 10th to January 15th. What the issue here is most people are going to see not the numbers they want to see, which is everything climbing to 100, and they're going to say it doesn't work, it sucks. But remember, putting 7, 8, 10 years, however old your battery is, through the ringer and then just clipping up a tool and saying, I hope this turns back time, is not realistic. The fact that it can even change the state of health is a really cool concept and a really cool process. So from 64 to 76, there has been an overall 12% increase to the state of health, which is awesome. Anytime you can get over 10% of anything to something essentially dead, that's a win in my book. We are now on February 11th. Cool. Still has a charge of 12.72 after sitting here, again, not on a maintainer, just wanted to see if weeks down the line, could it still hold a charge? And it can. So that we're off to a good start. Everything's going to be tested the same. We'll start with cold crank amps. It's, as you can see, it's 20 degrees outside. 20, 30 degrees outside, but we are not outside. Still cold in this room though. 462, and it is saying once more replace battery. So we did come back to 71%. I don't want to sell anybody any snake oil. So realistically speaking, rather than the initial 12% like maximum increase we saw, it is holding about a 6% increase in health. Good. Less resistance, but I don't want anybody, hoping for miracles here. As for the cranking amps, which is generally what more people are going to come across. No gimmicks, no games. 690. Oop, above 0. Now it is saying 582. 71 is where we stayed. So the initial 64%, we saw a 7% overall increase. So does it work? Yes. Is it a miracle worker? No. But still solid. And so this video has taught me a few things. One, and I want to make this super clear, maintaining your battery is super important, but the NOCO is super noisy. The NOCO is not just a line of chargers. They're chargers, maintainers. They also have battery cleaners / neutralizers, acid detectors, and corrosion preventatives, among other stuff. So if you're out there and you see the NOCO name, they don't play when it comes to batteries and power sources. Jump starters, chargers, battery maintainers. And when I say they have a million models, I mean I keep wanting one, and then I look and there's a better one, there's a better one, there's a better one, and a newer one, and they do 10 million things. So find one that works for you if this is something that you want. If you want to have an extra battery, maybe something you go 6 months and then change it to another battery, and then you can, prolong the lives of both batteries by switching them every 6 months. That's what you want to do. Maybe you have a dud car, maybe something sitting in your driveway that just needs a battery while you diagnose it. You can use it for that. Is this a battery that I would grab, get in a car and just take off across the country? Probably not, just because, I would want a solidly new battery or a relatively trustworthy battery. But definitely something you drive around in your area. Like, if the battery is showing that it's good and it's able to perform, especially in the cold, I think being 47 cold cranking amps away from what it's rated for is good. Like that will get you from A to B. Now, whether or not it will hold that while you have a security system, or you leave your flashers on if you're on the side of the road or something, it's a different story. So it's not just about how well it can charge and how well it can power stuff, but also how well it can maintain that charge. So check your alternator and check your starter to make sure your car is able to start and recharge itself properly. A tester like the Foxwell and many others is able to do that. They look at your charging system, your starting system, and your battery system or your power system. So with that being said, do I recommend the NOCO Genius? Yes. I'm not sure if I can recommend the 1 and 2 because that seems like really low amperage. So if you're just doing really slow trickle charge and you're just leaving that thing for months, then sure. But I think either the NOCO 5 or the NOCO 10 is perfectly fine. They do have the NOCO 25, and again, the number corresponds to the amperage or how fast it can charge something, and for bigger batteries to be maintained. So you do as you see fit. But as far as this particular product, I absolutely recommend it. Again, there's no affiliation, no nothing. I'm just going to drop an Amazon link because that's where I bought it. You're welcome to see it, put it in your wish list, and wait for it to come down in price. I want you to save as much money as possible. If you don't need it right now, don't buy it. But this battery is definitely capable of going back in a vehicle and doing some good. So glad to see it, and a 12% increase overall while still being able to hold just over 90% of what its original rating is for. I know I should be picking up my camera and just showing the camera, but look at that little sticker right there. You see us as MFD 2018. This is a 7-year-old battery. I'm not joking. Now, there is one bad thing about the NOCO Genius 10 that I wanted to point out, and it's with the alligator clip. Again, as far as the system itself, but let me see if I can get you a zoom in action. You see that burn? It started turning like blue or gray, and it started like melting. I don't know if it's that it came in contact with some acid, which the battery's bone dry and it's not broken or anything, but I don't know if maybe it was arcing or something, but yeah, not cool, man. So for the sake of the video, I wanted to continue to use this thing, but I am going to order an exchange just because I'm not sure if I'm not sure if there's a bad connection with the wire where it's just causing some type of small arc or whatever. But I wanted to remain consistent, and that's why I didn't start the experiment with a charger and then exchange it and then start the, finish the experiment with a different one. I wanted to keep this as consistent as possible. And so for that reason, I kept the original. So this is all, transparent, black and white. Is it a good product? Does it charge? The answer is yes, it definitely charges. And NOCO does recommend that before you do any of the rejuvenation process, you do fully charge your battery. Once you charge it, it's going to be gravy the rest of the way. But the fact that this thing does have the ability to tell you whether the battery is bad, like it can hook up to a battery and just give you the indicator with the battery picture with an X just to let you know it's a bad battery. It will let you know with the arrow going back with the plus and minus if you have them on backwards. It's awesome. Like it's smart enough to be almost dummy proof. And so the only thing is the force power mode, where it's going to ignore all the safety settings and try to force power into your battery. If you go touching those, there's a potential that you could get hurt. Remember, it is X amount of amps at a higher voltage going in through your body. Please do not touch this or even buy it if you don't know what you're doing or if you don't care and you just want to full send it. No. This is for people with a brain. This is for people that are just trying to really save a battery. But remember, you have to spend money. There's no way around it. You still need a new battery, go get another battery. You still need the Genius, go pick it up and keep an extra battery on hand. Can this rejuvenate? Yes, but I don't think anybody has 2-3 weeks to rejuvenate their battery instead of going to work or school or to the pharmacy, hospital, groceries. This is not one of those things that are just going to save your battery in a day or two. So keep that in mind. As you saw in the original video, it says replace battery. If it's not doing well, or if it's at a certain state of charge, or it's not meeting a specific rating or a specific percentage of the rating, my analyzer will tell you replace the battery. If you see something that's 50% or less, I'm going to go ahead and say replace it no matter what. Don't even waste your time with the rejuvenation process of the Genius. Just get another battery. But if you're in maybe the 90s, maybe the 80s, every once in a while just run a rejuvenation process just to kind of give it a little help. It may just, extend it to 7, 8, 9, 10 years, which is where your battery is usually going to go bad. But it also depends on temperature and how you drive and if there's any car accidents or, there's a million different variables out there. But you have yourself an excellent day. You're free to make your own speculations and make your own informed decision, but this was just my experience after 15 days of consistently testing this product. Let me know. You have yourself an excellent day. Work smart.